Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Aruba Instant On. Today's hosts are Jason Bergeson, he is their systems engineer and master trainer, and Austin Gilliam, he is their SMB business development manager. They will be presenting today, and if anyone has any questions, please submit them in the question box, and Jason and Austin will answer them at the end of today's presentation. Jason, I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Awesome, Julia. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak to everybody on the call today. Again, just like Julie said, if you have any questions at all, feel free to utilize that the chat box and the question box to get those questions in so we can get them answered at the end. And again, my name is Jason Bergeson, and with me is Austin Gilliam. And we're going to be able to present a brand new portfolio for Aruba. And before I get started, I really do want to do a brief history of Aruba as a company, because you may not really be familiar with us and where we came from. And if it's new information to you, the one thing I will say is Aruba as a company has actually been around for almost 18 years at this point in time. So if you think about the history of when Wi-Fi, and Aruba is predominantly a wireless-based company that has really been geared towards the enterprise. And if you think about when Wi-Fi became mainstream, the first laptop that shipped with Wi-Fi actually started shipping in 1999. That was the Apple iBook. And then literally 3 years after that, Aruba was founded as a company. So from a market standpoint, Aruba really did dive in at the perfect opportunity from a Wi-Fi perspective. And one area that we really do very well in the enterprise space comes in the form of security, as well as having our devices dynamically operate based on the environment that they're in. And we're going to go over some of those technologies today with the new portfolio Instant On. And like I said, predominantly we've been in the enterprise space. We've now been recognized by Gartner in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 14 years in a row for being a leader in the wireless LAN space. And we joined the small business space back about a year ago with Instant On this platform. And we just recently announced some new products that we're going to be talking about that have expanded it even further. But really, the idea here is, if you've never heard of Aruba before, I highly recommend taking a look at us as a company, because have been doing Wi-Fi for a very long time, and we've encountered pretty much every scenario that Wi-Fi is being utilized in. And if you take a look at the way the world works today, even in the environments that we're dealing with right now in the world, Wi-Fi is needed now more than it ever was before. And some of the really crazy numbers that I've seen, that the Wi-Fi Alliance is actually expected that the total area market share for Wi-Fi is going to hit literally $6.3 billion by 2023. That's a massive number, and small business is definitely a part of that number. All right, so let's get started. So the agenda today, real briefly, we're going to go over some small business trends and challenges, and then we're going to talk about the overall platform with Instant On, right? So there's definitely challenges when we're dealing with small businesses, and the Instant On is really the answer to those challenges. So from a hardware and a software perspective, we're going to be going over some warranty and support services around that, some very basic pricing information, as well as some additional information around the software and how Instant On actually is managed, right? So there's some pretty huge things around the way it's managed and the pricing associated with all of that. So if we take a look at the total opportunity from a small business perspective, really the IT spend around small business right now is $1.9 billion. And the world and the environment that we're in today is not really changing that number drastically like you think it would. It's just the way that people are doing business right now has changed. The need for wireless connectivity, network infrastructure, IT is needed, just in different ways. We've seen small businesses that have transitioned from indoor seating at restaurants to now utilizing outdoor seatings or curbside pickups. And in those kind of scenarios, you need good Wi-Fi coverage outside. So as devices move from the inside to the outside, when that waiter brings your bag of food to your car and they want to check you out utilizing a point of sale tablet, for example, that needs to be connected to the internet. And having good outdoor wireless coverage to do that is needed. Or if you're in a situation where you're waiting in your car for a doctor's appointment, having good Wi-Fi connectivity outside enhances that guest experience. So it's definitely needed now more than ever, even though the business environments have changed in the way business is conducted. And we don't see this slowing down, right? So I talked about just the Wi-Fi space earlier, $6.3 billion noted by the Wi-Fi Alliance. This is total IT spend for small business. Lots of market share to grab when we're dealing with some of the challenges. And really, if I throw some other numbers on the screen, I'm a big numbers guy, so I like seeing numbers, but 68% have a focus on investing and replacing outdated IT infrastructure in 2020, whether that's switching or wireless devices. And a lot of the times in the small business world, we're dealing with devices that have not really been designed to go into a small business. We see a lot of small business owners actually go to a big box store and purchase an off-the-shelf consumer-based router, and they stick that into their small business and give their guest a wireless experience. But you guys are probably well aware, as much as I am, that a lot of the times those consumer-based routers can't really even do the job of being a good router at home, much less in the environments of a small business where 99% uptime, 5 nines of uptime is required. The last thing you want to have to do is reboot that router during the middle of the lunch hour because it's no longer functioning anymore. 35% have a focus on investing in technology to combat increased security threats. Security is always a big talking point in the world, whether that is networking security or personal security or home security, whether we're dealing with social distancing. I really do feel like it's built into every single one of us. When you get out of your house, you lock the door. When you get out of your car, you lock the door. And networking security often gets overlooked, especially in the small business, because it's not easy to implement. Having proper security policies and postures is very difficult from a networking perspective. So a lot of the times what you see in a small business is just the password written on a chalkboard, or you hand it out on a piece of paper, and that's the way security is implemented from a wireless perspective. But the problem with that kind of security is it's very similar to a white picket fence around the house. Yes, it might keep certain people away, but if everybody knows your password to get onto the network, then your network is no longer inherently secure. 44% plan to use IT automation tools. And what that means is speeding up the energy. And there's no doubt that we've used cloud-based services to that, and we take advantage of the ability of getting devices online as quickly as possible with Instant On. 35% total IT spend would be allocated to hardware refresh for small business. Back to that $1 billion number that we put earlier. That number would be open to the taking when we're dealing with small businesses that realize that Wi-Fi challenges need to be resolved in order for their business to move forward. And then 50% of SMBs will adopt a cloud-first approach when sourcing software infrastructure or platforms by 2021. There's no doubt that in the industry today that cloud-based services are growing, whether that's Netflix or Disney Plus or Dropbox. There's so many different cloud services that you can choose from, and that's only increasing. People like having access to all of their data and information from anywhere in the world. And being able to utilize the cloud to leverage better network infrastructures is something that we seek first with Instant On. So like I said, I was a numbers guy, so that really helped me a lot from taking a look at the numbers of the industry as a whole when we're dealing with small business. But these are definitely some of the challenges when we're dealing with the small business customer. So keeping up with the latest technology, right? It's actually very expensive. The last thing a small business owner wants to do is go out and buy new networking hardware when potentially existing hardware is working okay. And I utilize the word okay with air quotes because we all know that that consumer-based router that was purchased providing, wireless coverage probably isn't the best suited for their small business. Not to mention, it costs a lot of money to upgrade to more efficient and more correct tool for the job kind of networking hardware. So we have to take a look at the technology. We have to take a look at the budget overall. Make security easy to implement. You don't want to have to write the password on a chalkboard to get your guest online and secure. Having great coverage, making sure you extend that coverage outdoors when we're dealing with a lot of curbside pickups and waiting areas in your car. And then, of course, keeping the network running. You want that 5 nines of uptime. So those are some of the challenges that we're looking at today around those numbers we talked about. And those challenges, as difficult as they are, really the only way we can go down the road of solving those challenges is having a great platform and foundation to do that. And to kick it off, the foundation that we're looking at today is the instant-on Wi-Fi access point. So we have 5 access points in the lineup. We have 3 indoor access points, a hospitality model, as well as an outdoor access points. So some things to note here is that these access points have actually been certified by the Wi-Fi Alliance. And what that means is that the Wi-Fi that these access points produce is the cleanest and best Wi-Fi that you can get from an access point. It's gone through all of the certification necessary to ensure that when a device connects to these access points, that the interoperability won't be bad, right? So if anybody's ever deployed another vendor's Wi-Fi and you've had issues of devices connecting reliably, generally that's because a lot of vendors on the market forego going down the path of Wi-Fi certification, versus all of these have actually done that. We're the only vendor in this space that can actually say that. Now, all of these access points you see on the screen support 802.11 AC Wave 2. So they all are multi-user MIMO. They all support up to 80 megahertz wide channels. So really fast throughput numbers. And AC Wave 2 is the most utilized standard right now today. So you're gonna get the best speeds, most client density out of that wireless standard. Now, really, what's a great thing of having multiple indoor access points, you see on your screen the AP11, 12, and 15, is you can really put the access point, you can design the room the access point is going into by the model that we have, really the right tool for the job scenario. The AP11 is great for office space or a foyer, a waiting area, but the AP15 is more suited for higher dense deployments like cafeterias and gymnasiums, or maybe a larger conference room that requires more device connectivities. And the benefit of having multiple options and putting the right tool in, for the job in the room is that it lowers your total cost of your bill of materials because you don't have to put the fastest, most expensive unit in every single room. The AP11D that we have is the hospitality model. It's designed to go into hotel rooms or doctor's offices. And really, it's designed to get great wireless coverage in that room. A lot of the times we see in hotels in particular is that people will mount APs in the hallways. And the problem with putting an AP in the hallway is that the signal actually has to go through walls in order to get to your room. It's got to go through the walls, and then generally when you walk into that hotel room, usually the first room on the left or the right in that room is the bathroom. So that signal has to go through a wall, but that wall could have piping and electrical, and by the time it actually sits in your living area in that hotel room, your signal is weak and you're getting a bad experience. Versus with the AP11D, we can put that in the room itself to get the best user experience possible. These are also great for small offices and homes as well because it has additional ports on the bottom of them. So you have 4 Ethernet ports that with one of them being able to output power over Ethernet. So that way you can plug in a voice over IP phone and then power that device as well as give it data connectivity, all going back to good solid Wi-Fi. And then the outdoor access point, last but not least, really does help in today's environment, right? Having great Wi-Fi coverage doesn't only offer a better guest experience, but now with employees moving in and out very rapidly and often, having great outdoor connectivity is absolutely needed. Again, all of these access points can be powered by power over Ethernet. Our indoor models can also be powered by wall adapters that you can utilize in a smart mesh deployment, which I'll go over in just a little bit. Now, having great hardware is definitely just a start. All of our hardware that you saw on the screen previously is actually engineered directly from our enterprise line of access points. So from a reliability perspective, they are designed to always run and operate for your needs in the small business. But having great hardware is not enough. We have to have great software and differentiators to support the hardware. And really, this is where Aruba Instant On shines, is in the setup. One thing about consumer-based routers when small businesses deploy those is they're extremely easy to set up. That small business, that consumer-based router company does not intend that small business owner or a homeowner to be a network engineer. And we have the same concept with Instant On. We want to make it as easy as possible to set up and get up and running as quickly as possible. In fact, all of our access points actually have a Bluetooth radio built in, and utilizing the app on your phone, we can connect them together utilizing that Bluetooth radio and provision it and set it up without having to know things like IP addressing or DHCP servers or firewall rules. Everything happens through that setup process. We've also implemented the ability of doing that with a mesh access point. And if you're not familiar with what mesh is the idea of extending your network wirelessly between multiple access points without actually having to run cable between them. Usually you'd have to run a cable to every single access point in a building or in a home to get it to have network connectivity. But with mesh, we can actually connect two devices, two access points wirelessly together to extend the coverage without having to run that cable. With a lot of vendors, you actually have to plug that mesh access point into the network and configure and set it up and then go place it where it's going to live permanently and power it up via a wall adapter. And you have to, hope that the device connects like it's supposed to. And then if it doesn't, you have to unplug it, bring it downstairs, do it all over again. Versus with us, you actually can utilize the wall adapter, plug it in where it's going to live permanently, set it up right where it is in that spot, utilizing the Bluetooth. It will provision utilizing the app, and it'll be up and running in a matter of minutes. It looks almost like magic, which is pretty cool. We have a simple to set up, just like I just mentioned, but you can set up between the application on your phone, or you can utilize the cloud-based web portal. We can actually manage up to 150 sites in that management portal. So whether or not you are, a partner that is managing multiple customers that you want to see from a single pane of glass experience, or if your customer has multiple locations, you can manage all of those within the portal. Now, again, security, we tend to go down the path of least resistance. So if it's not easy to set up, then we're not going to set it up. We're going to write that password on the chalkboard. And we want to make sure that we implement the proper security that's extremely easy to set up. In fact, when you select that you want to create a new guest network, the access point will automatically spin off another virtual network, and then it'll actually create proper firewall rules and then enable guest isolation. So that way all your guests can't talk to any device that's on the employee network, and then the guests actually can't even talk to each other from a network perspective, meaning that if there's a guest in the building that's connected to the guest network, they can't try to hack or do something malicious to another guest that's on that same network. So everybody is secure on that network. Now, this is a huge differentiator for us, especially in this segment, is that every single Instant On device includes 90 days of phone support. If you have any issues, you need to get something answered right away, you can pick up the phone and speak to somebody at Aruba to get those problems resolved. They also come with a 1-year hardware warranty as well as access to the Instant On community. And you can use all 3 of those in tandem together to get the best experience possible. One thing about Aruba is we are a customer first, customer last company. And we want to make sure we take care of everybody, not only from the PO all the way to the install. No hidden fees. I've already talked about cloud management. We talked about all the cloud services that we utilize on a regular basis. And 9 times out of 10, those cloud services require some kind of licensing monthly subscription in order for that service to work. With Instant On, everything is included with that hardware purchase. There is no subscription cost, there is no licensing, nothing additional to light up any features. Everything is baked into the product that you purchased today. And with the ability of managing up to 150 sites in the Instant On portal, you can see the amount of scalability within the Instant On platform that you have. Now, speaking of scalability, from an Instant On perspective, we can actually support up to 25 access points per site or per location. So you can mix and match any of the models that you saw on the previous screen to make sure that you can deploy and fit your needs. And we can support roughly around 500 or so devices between those 25 access points. So you can scale this to a fairly large network in order to support your customers' needs in the small business segment. So we really are targeting this towards small business. What we consider small business is 100 users or less, and Aruba considers every user to have around 5 devices. That's how I got to that 500 device count number. All right, so that's some of our wireless products. Now, we actually announced some brand new products about 2 weeks ago in the switching lineup, right? So switching is definitely needed for a lot of infrastructures today. They require hardwired device connectivity. And a lot of our customers that have purchased Instant On have really been hammering for a switch to support the platform as well. And like I said, a few weeks ago, we were happy to announce a brand new switch model called the 1930 switches. These are actually going to be coming into Microcom fairly soon, so make sure you talk to your sales rep to get actual ETAs on when these are coming in, but they're definitely coming in for you guys to order and purchase and get your hands on. But we're super excited to get these in the portfolio today because this provides not only cloud management for your Wi-Fi, but also cloud managed for all your wired devices. Now, some of the features that these switches support, some of the same mentalities that we have from a wireless perspective are also baked into these switches. We have the ability of doing simplified setup. We can scan a QR code or type in the serial number. We can utilize an already existing AP to locate the switch on the network for easy setup. Having all the visibility in the app that is managed through the cloud so you can make changes anywhere in the world really does make things a lot easier when you're trying to manage your network. No licensing, doesn't cost anything to have this switch up in the Instant On portal. You don't have to pay for that licensing. Now, from a connectivity standpoint, we have 8-port, 24-port, and 48-port models. We have PoE and non-PoE models, and then we support uplink ports on all of them. So on the 8-port models is SFP, and then on the 24 and 48-port models, we have SFP Plus with 4 ports of SFP Plus on those specific models. So you have a lot of room for expansion from a network perspective. And then on the security side, we have support for 802.1x if you have a network infrastructure that utilizes Radius and Active Directory. The ability of creating ACLs, these switches actually do support layer 3 static routes in local management mode, so you have the ability of taking advantage of that. But what I will say the biggest takeaway here is what these switches actually come with from a support perspective. Not only are they reliable and well engineered devices, but they come with great support, a limited lifetime warranty, and a switch geared towards small businesses, really unheard of. The same 90-day phone support also built into these products, just like the AP, so that if you have any questions and they need to get answered, you can get them answered right away. Now, for the APs and the switches, we actually do have an additional support offering. We have a 3-year support offering for the APs that can be purchased at a $45. That's a list price for that. But we also have the same support models in a 3 and a 5-year on the switch side. Now, really what the switches enable us to do is have a full end-to-end networking solution that's all managed in the cloud. We also have the ability of utilizing one of our APs as a router. So the AP11D, for example, has the additional ports. You can utilize that as a router and plug that into a switch and then have that switch going out to access points. That's all managed through the Instant On portal. So you can make changes exactly to make the network work like you need to have a full end-to-end solution, which gives you that single pane of glass experience. You can also manage your firmware updates. These Instant On cloud platform, you have automatic firmware updates that you can schedule to be able to update automatically for you to ensure you have the best features as well as the most secure product. The application is extremely easy to set up. The wording, the pictures really do make it easy for anybody to get these deployed, whether you're a network engineer or not. And the way we do that is based off of the questions we ask during the setup process that is going to ultimately determine the workflow of products. Are you setting up an access point? Are you setting up a switch? Are you setting up both? And we can provide the correct workflow during that process. And then obviously, the ability of the cloud, having the option of remote management is huge. So you could be, literally anywhere in the world and make network adjustments from your phone, which speaks volumes when you're trying to get these devices working and up and running. You don't have to worry about them from a configuration standpoint as well. Now, again, I just want to touch briefly on the support offerings that we do have for these devices. Again, like I said, we have a 3-year additional support offering on our APs with 90 days of with extended out to 3 years for phone support as well. The initial warranty is 90-day phone support, 1-year hardware on the APs. On the actual switch, you actually get a limited lifetime warranty, which is, like I said, pretty much unheard of in the industry, but you have the ability of extending that out up to 5 years in total for the switch. So you can do 3 years on the APs and 5 years on the switch, but it really does extend the full value of the deployment. And I know a lot of customers really do appreciate having the extended warranty options available for them to provide that blanket of coverage for their needs. Now, I know we really haven't talked a lot about pricing during this presentation, but I will say we really do target Instant On from a pricing perspective to be competitive in the small business segment. So just to show you some overall, groupings of pricings around some of our other competitors. So as you see, we're very competitive from a pricing standpoint. And again, we don't require any additional fees. There's no licensing cost. We don't require any additional management hardware to get these devices up and running. So you don't have to purchase you don't have to run software on a server. You don't have to purchase an additional piece of hardware to manage your APs and switches. They all have that running on the device itself, so it lowers the total cost. All of our security features are also baked into the product. It does not require another device in order to have security features that are managed. And again, since all of this hardware is engineered from our enterprise solution, it is designed to work day in and day out for your deployments, for your customers, to ensure that they can have the greatest wireless experience and wired experience that they possibly can. So we want to be as flexible as possible with the actual options that we do have. And really the product spread for the switches is great. Having an 8-port model that's fanless with PoE built into it, 24 and 48 ports with multiple uplink options really does offer that flexibility to expand the network when you need to. Now, real quick, before we wrap up for some questions and answers, is really, like I said in the very beginning, there is not a business today that doesn't require Wi-Fi in some shape, form, or fashion. Whether you're a restaurant or retail, working from home today, medical offices, or online learning, you require a great wireless experience. We're constantly bringing more and more devices onto the network. And it just so happens that what devices looked like 5 years ago or 10 years ago that predominantly were laptops and computers are now looking more like things that you plug into a lamp or a vacuum cleaner or a refrigerator. All of these devices require wireless connectivity, and having a great experience not only in your home but also in a small business is needed to provide a great experience for customers, for guests, to ensure that your networks are operating day in and day out. So really, we're extremely proud with Instant On and how it's able to do that to provide a great experience for everybody that's utilizing wireless. Now, before I wrap up, if you don't hear anything else during this presentation today, my biggest takeaway is this slide right here. First and foremost, we want Instant On to be simple to set up. Utilizing the application to get these devices up and running without having to be a network engineer is huge when we're dealing with, in situations where people are managing their own networks these days. And you want to get these devices up and running. Now, we have the ability of getting more in the weeds if needed, but from a basic setups perspective, you can get these devices up and running without having any prior networking knowledge. Very easy to implement security, right? You don't want to go down the path of least resistance. We want to implement proper security and not write the password on the chalkboard. And we've done that with proper security policies just by the tap of a button. With performance, these APs are designed to always run and operate. So the amount of density that they support, they come straight from our enterprise line, are designed for a lot higher rigorous needs of business than what an SMB would normally call for. So you can guarantee that these devices are going to operate day in and day out without having a slowdown in performance, without causing issues from an experience perspective. This one is absolutely huge. No hidden fees. The one thing that we all absolutely love is cloud service, but we all hate the fees associated with that. And with Instant On, everything is baked into the hardware cost. You don't have to worry about paying any reoccurring fee or a license to activate a new feature. It's all built into that hardware. And then last but not least, again, if you've never heard of Aruba, I highly recommend looking us up as a company. We have been in the wireless industry for a long time now. So actually almost 18 years at this point in time, and have been recognized as a leader for 14 of those years, which is remarkable when you think about it. 3 years after being founded, we were recognized as a leader. And that really speaks volumes to how we implement wireless and how we actually manage wireless from a easy to use security perspective that always is going to operate day in and day out. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Julie, and we'll look to see if there are any questions about the presentation today.
Jason, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And yes, I've got a couple questions here for you.
Awesome.
Let's go ahead and get started with the first one. Regarding the access points, I believe, is the outdoor model the only IP67 certified model?
So we only have one outdoor model, and it's actually IP55 rated. So 67, is definitely a lot higher rating for depending on the environments that you're utilizing. But what I will say is almost every single outdoor model of other vendors in this space don't hold any outdoor certification. So that's also another differentiator for us, is that our outdoor model has actually gone through IP certification, but it's IP55.
Thank you for that clarification, Jason. Next question here for you. How many maximum users will it be able to support?
So it all varies based off of how many access points that you have deployed on your network. Like I said, we tend to utilize under 100 users or less, but every user has, roughly multiple devices that need to be connected. So on a full-fledged instant-on network with 25 access points, you could scale to roughly around 500 devices. If the question is more singular, as in they want to know how many devices one access point could support, really it's a similar answer, but it comes down to what those devices are doing. If we're talking about basic email and web surfing, the AP11 can easily support 40 to 60 users or devices. But if all of those users require 4K Netflix, well, that number will significantly lessen, right? Because the amount of bandwidth required for 4K Netflix is a lot more than what an email would require. So it really comes down to what those devices are doing. And I always like to relate it, if I was a teacher and I was in front of a classroom and I turned on a movie and all my students in that classroom are watching that movie, I would be able to manage all the students just fine because they're all watching that movie, no issues whatsoever. But as soon as one of those students asks to go to the bathroom, well, then all of those students have to go to the bathroom. And now it takes me a lot longer to manage all of those students because they now all have to do something. And the same thing works in the wireless world. If they are just doing easy things like watching a movie, well, we can have a lot of clients. But as soon as one requires a lot of attention, then we can do, less users at one time.
Thank you for that, Jason. Next question here for you. Will your mesh setup device talk to each other even though they are different models?
Yes, so you can mesh any device, any instant-on AP to any of the instant-on APs. There's no limitation. And we support up to one hardwired access point out to 8 wireless access points. So you can even scale pretty far with how many mesh APs that you actually connect.
Thank you very much. Next question. You had mentioned the 90-day phone support. How can a customer reach out after the 90 days has passed?
So after the 90 days have passed, like I said, we do have extended support offerings that you can purchase up front with the access points or the switches. If those were not purchased after the 90 days, we have the ability of utilizing the online community. Asking questions on the online community can get a lot of things answered. And then we also have that community being monitored by Aruba badged employees to get those questions answered.
Excellent. Thank you. We like the online communities. Okay, next question here. Instant on remote management. What security measures have been implemented with it?
Are we talking about maybe user security data as in like personal information? All of the information, since we have to go by GDPR, is all located on the Aruba Instant On website. So we have a whole data sheet dedicated to privacy information that is shared between the site and the cloud. So all that can be located on arubainstanton.com.
Excellent, excellent. Good to know that. Next question here for you. Can one access the controller anywhere, anywhere you have internet, or is the controller required on site for it to work?
Well, there is no controller to manage Instant On. All of the Instant On APs and switches they manage together as a site, so they work as one. There's no additional hardware, and you manage them from the cloud. So the application on your phone will be able to connect to that site without any additional hardware.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Can you give us an overview of where your products are manufactured?
Where they're manufactured, I believe all of these are manufactured in China, but I'll have to verify that.
No problem. Thank you. We mentioned support briefly a little earlier. What is the general thing that we should know for support in general? What are the best way to reach you? What are their hours? Is it just online? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so Aruba for all of the whole entire portfolio, the number for that is 1-800 Wi-Fi LAN, and that's the support number for any Aruba product to get in touch with, to get more questions answered and problems resolved. The community is located at arubainstanton.com, and so you can obviously go there and ask any questions to get answered too. So either one of those would be completely acceptable from a support standpoint.
Great information, Jason. Thank you so much for answering all of those questions for us today. And also, thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. And if there's any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown here today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And remember, this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so you can view it again. Jason, Austin, it's been a pleasure having you with us today. We're very happy to have our first webinar with you. I hope everyone has a fantastic day and is enjoying all of this valuable information that we now have with Aruba Instant On. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.